everyone, welcome to another Animation Friday. I am so sorry that the audio was not working for the videos that I tried to upload yesterday. I have no idea what happened and I have no idea why the audio was not working, but I'm going to try to do everything from my end to make sure that the audio is working. Sometimes these videos, unfortunately, sometimes end up having problems, but uh, all you can really do is try to fix them. So I'm going to try to go through all the videos again, try to fix the issues, and try to re-upload everything, because that's unfortunately the only thing I can do. And I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but basically, as you can probably tell by the thumbnail as well as title of this video, for this Animation Friday, I thought it would be interesting to briefly address my thoughts when it comes to the colors and backgrounds of animation, in particular within animated films and within television shows. More so within film, though, I would say, because I think those things are a lot more emphasized than they are within television, only because they have bigger budgets to work with and there's a lot more time and energy and effort put into them, etc. Not to say that there's not a huge amount of effort put into television shows, but when you look at animation through as far as scaling is concerned, largely the animation is far more well produced when it is um, through animated film that's given millions and millions of dollars thrown at it. So basically, when it comes to, in particular, colors, um, animation has showcased this in a variety of different ways throughout the years. Largely within the olden days, within 2D animation, oftentimes the colors within animation just kind of flow. Because largely 2D animation looks like a painting. Um, the colors kind of blend together more. There's a lot more artistry to the colors. Um, it feels like you're sort of, you're walking through an art museum kind of when you really look at a lot of 2D animation. In particular, Disney animation, because they're known as being sort of the artisans of their time, and they're largely the oldest animation company out of all of the ones that have come and gone and are still here throughout the years. So when you see this kind of blending of colors and um, just the the amount of kind of uh, sort of smoothing that it has throughout the images that are ultimately created, you sort of see how 2D animation, although it has its moments of being maybe a little bit out there, they're usually, for the most part, kind of um, there's just a certain amount of things that just flow together when you just look at how the colors are drawn out. And I think that's just something that's just very fascinating, because it is literally kind of like going to an art museum. And if you watch, in particular, films like Fantasia, you'll sort of see what I'm talking about as far as the colors just kind of, you know, drifting and at the same time kind of having the characters sort of blend in a little bit more with the background than kind of being out there and sort of in your face. Like 2D animation is sort of designed to be rather uh, flat because obviously you only have two dimensions. But in doing so, the colors kind of just they just kind of blend with one another as a result of that, and that just creates a it just creates a really kind of more in-depth and interesting medium in that sense, because it's like the animation is transporting you through the colors into this sort of fantasy-oriented world, which is largely what 2D animation was really based on. It was on this idea of bringing the art to life, and in doing so, bringing the audience into that kind of environment, so to speak. And largely, you also see this with the backgrounds. Within 2D animation, there's not a whole huge extent of detail put into the backgrounds. It's almost like the backgrounds look out of something that you would see in a fairy tale, like something that is beyond, I guess you could even say, within the realms of our comprehension of reality. Like it's just kind of there to, kind of be a portal to a different world, a world of fantasy and a world of art and imagination. It's really designed to be that It's really that style of animation is really it does try to transport you. It does try to ring you in. And largely that is through the way in which the colors are coordinated and the way in which the backgrounds are executed. So it's really fascinating in that sense. However, if you look at more modern animation, today's animation, which is primarily 3D, with obviously some more exceptions within television, although I think a lot of animation within television is not necessarily as popular as influential as Children as it was within the 20th century. If you really do see the 3D films that are sort of coming out that are animation oriented and based within using that medium, you'll see that a lot of the a lot of it is it's funny because it looks more cartoony in the sense that they're trying to really make it for children. They're trying to make it for a certain kind of demographic, just by the sheer colors and backgrounds that they use. You can sort of tell that this is designed to be, it's not designed to be real, but at the same time it is a lot more cartoony looking. And the reason for that is obviously through the way in which they showcase the colors. Now the colors, like I've said before, in 2D animation, a lot of it's very flat, so the colors kind of blend with each other. But when you look at 3D animation, everything kind of just stands out at you. It kind of is, and again, since you're adding that other dimension, you're kind of pushing the story out to the audience. So the audience is not going in so much and looking at it as a really new world fantasy kind of piece of art. You're looking at it more so with the animation kind of jumping out at you and kind of trying to kind of be in your space in that sense, because again it is adding that level of dimension to it. And obviously if you notice the colors within 3D animation, not only do they not blend as much as 2D, but also they're a lot more shinier. If you'll notice 3D, a lot of the times the characters, just the way everybody is drawn and sort of laid out through the colors, a lot of it has this sort of sheen to it. It's almost plasticky. It is kind of it's not as it just looks like it's designed to be something that is more within the realms of reality. It's not trying to blend in with its surroundings. It's trying to kind of stick out from its surroundings and from the backgrounds. So that's, I think, something that's very important to know when it comes to the colors, because if there's like a shiny part to it, if there's this, you know, attention really to detail, which you do see in a lot of 3D animation, like the colors, there's just a certain amount of consistency and detailing of these colors that ultimately result in it just kind of popping out at you. And in doing so, you know, again, you create this image that's kind of out there in front of you. Now, when it comes to the backgrounds, the way in which the backgrounds sort of work in 3D animation is, again, they're a lot more detailed, similar to the colors. You know, they try to make every little thing stand out. But also the backgrounds are a lot more, again, I think reminiscent to reality or to something that's probably more of this world. Even the fantasy kind of oriented images, you know, they're just given a certain amount of detail and kind of historical almost relevancy to the point where it doesn't really feel like it's something out of another dimension. You know, it feels like that there's this certain amount of realism to it. And I think that can obviously be attributed to the fact that, you know, computers are sort of, you know, they're part of reality. You know, they're kind of a science, you know, computers and programming. So it only makes sense that this kind of animation would give off these sorts of similar kinds of perceptions as far as the colors and the backgrounds. But that's really, I think, the important thing to note about this kind of distinction with the colors and the backgrounds. You can really, when you really look at the differences between 2D and 3D and what I've discussed when it comes to these colors and backgrounds, you'll sort of understand what I mean and how they showcase them. Because really the colors and the backgrounds are very important, because animation is the most visual medium you could probably get in. I mean, because you're creating something like literally out of your own kind of mind and your own thoughts. So it's really designed to really showcase what it's really built upon emotion. So, and a lot of that is through the colors and the backgrounds. And I think if you look at older animation, there was, I think, a lot more of an emotional attachment that I think could be associated with the colors and backgrounds. And not so much with today's animation, only because it feels a little bit more grounded, feels a little bit more realistic. And again, that's largely due to the fact that it is computer generated and that the colors ultimately end up feeling like, you know, there's something within the realms of reality and to the way in which that they stand out from the backgrounds, you know. So it's very fascinating, and I definitely would recommend people to really look into these two different categories, because they are sort of important in order to really understand animation and sort of the whole industry. But I think that's really ultimately all I can say for this video. However, if there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year. Excuse me. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.